Welcome to Study Session 2, Types of Motivation and the Motivation Process Cycle. Introduction. Motivation is generally defined as the force that compels you to act. It drives you to work hard and pushes you to succeed. Motivation influences our behavior and our ability to accomplish goals. There are many different forms of motivation. Each one influences behavior in its own unique way. No single type of motivation works for everyone. People's personalities vary, and so accordingly does the type of motivation that is most effective at inspiring their conduct. Moreover, most of our motives have a cyclical nature. They are aroused, they trigger behavior which leads to a goal, and finally, after the goal is reached, they are shut off. In this study session, you will be looking at the two major types of motivation sources and the process by which motivation is experienced until a goal is achieved by mankind. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Identify and explain the two types of motivation. 2. Highlight the motivation process cycle. Types of motivation. There are two types of motivation, and they are intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. It is important to understand that we are not all the same. Thus, effectively motivating your employees requires that you align an understanding of the different types of motivation. Such an understanding will enable you to better categorize your team members and apply the appropriate type of motivation. Quite the reverse. Others will respond better to extrinsic motivation, which in their world provides that difficult tasks can be dealt with provided there is a reward upon completion of that task. Become an expert in determining which type will work best with each team member. Extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Some relevant history. The extrinsic motivation literature evolved first. Extrinsically motivated behaviors are actions that result in the attainment of externally administered rewards, including pay, material possessions, prestige, and positive evaluation from others. 1. Since Thorndike 1911, thousands of studies, from laboratory experiments to field interventions such as Emory air freight study, have carried on the behaviorist tradition of changing behavior by manipulating extrinsic contingencies. In contrast to extrinsic motivation, intrinsic motivation is said to exist when behavior is performed for its own sake rather than to obtain material or social reinforcers. The concept of intrinsic motivation was an important challenge to behaviorism and has roots in Witty's 1959 competence or effectance motivation. Maslow 1943 and Alderfer 1969 addressed similar needs. After psychologists introduced these intrinsic needs, management scholars developed the important distinction between intrinsic motivations, a hypothetical construct presumably residing within the person, and intrinsically motivating tasks. Herzberg 1966 described tasks as intrinsically motivating when they are characterized by key motivators such as responsibility, challenge, achievement, variety, and advancement opportunity. With Herzberg as precursor, Hackman and Oldham 1976 identified task variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback from the task as key characteristics that generate internal motivation. According to Deci 1980, perceptions of personal as opposed to external control satisfy these needs and constitute the fundamental feature distinguishing intrinsically motivated behavior from extrinsically motivated behavior. Intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means that the individual's motivational stimuli are coming from within. The individual has the desire to perform a specific task because its results are in accordance with his belief system or fulfills a desire, and therefore importance is attached to it. The table below shows an example of deep-rooted desires. Extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation means that the individual's motivational stimuli are coming from outside. In other words, our desires to perform a task are controlled by an outside source. Note that even though the stimuli are coming from outside, the result of performing the task will still be rewarded for the individual performing the task. Extrinsic motivation is external in nature. The most well-known and most debated motivation is money. Below are some other examples. Employee of the Month Award, benefit package, bonuses, organized activities. The controversy. Do extrinsic rewards undermine intrinsic motivation? The concept of intrinsic motivation evolved independently of and subsequent to the behaviorist tradition of extrinsic contingencies. But the two meet with a bang when Deci, 1971, argued, based on his laboratory results, not only that extrinsic reinforcement is not needed for motivation, but also that tangible rewards actually undermine intrinsic motivation for interesting activities. Since this publication, the use of extrinsic rewards to alter human behavior has been challenged in literature reviews, textbooks, and the popular media. The motivation process cycle. The motivational cycle can be summed up as you can see below. Unfulfilled needs, impulse or drive, performance, incentive assessment, satiety. 1. Unfulfilled needs or necessity. It is the reason for the action. It is caused by a state of imbalance due to lack or deprivation. 2. Impulse or drive. It is the activity undertaken by necessity or reason, the internal energy that propels the individual to act in a certain direction. Hunger moves the individual to obtain food. Drive is often used when motivation state has a biological or physiological basis. It is regarded as impelling a person or animal to action. Drives can originate when an organism lacks something. Drive is often used when motivation state has a biological or physiological basis. It is regarded as impelling a person or animal to action. Drives can originate when an organism lacks something. Drives can also be aroused by environmental stimuli, such as advertisements from newspaper, magazines, and television, and so on. Drives can originate when an organism lacks something in its needs. This is one meaning of the word need. The need creates a drive state in the organism. It acts as if it pushes the urge to behave in a certain fashion to satisfy its need. Performance, that is action. It is the activity triggered to achieve something. Looking for food. The behavior that is related to drive state is called instrumental behavior because it is instrumental in bringing about the goal or the satisfaction of the needs. Thirst, for example, drives an animal to explore water. Sooner or later, this behavior succeeds, thereby reducing the need and the drive state. In other words, the animal's exploratory behavior is instrumental to finding water and reducing the thirst drive. Incentive assessment, that is goal. It is the purpose which guides the action, eating the food. Goals may be positive or negative. Food, sexual satisfaction, and championship are some of the examples of positive goals. These are the goals which the individual approaches or tries to reach. satiety. It is the satisfaction resulting from having attained the desired goal. After having eaten the food, hunger disappears. When the thirst is satisfied, motivational cycle is over. But when the need for water will build up again, the organism will once more go through motivational cycle. Below is motivation process cycle model. When instrumental behavior achieves its goal, the need is satisfied, there follows a temporary period of relief. This is the last stage of motivational cycle. Summary of study session. 1. There are two types of motivation: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. It's important to understand that we are not all the same. Thus, effectively motivating your employees requires that you gain an understanding of the different types of motivation. Such an understanding will enable you to better categorize your team members and apply the appropriate type of motivation. 2. When instrumental behavior achieves its goal, the need is satisfied, there follows a temporary period of relief. This is the last stage of motivational cycle. For example, in thirst, lack of water in the body produces unfulfilled need, first stage, and then a drive state, second. The organism has shown some exploratory behavior, third stage. The organism undertakes mental appraisal of why he needs the goal of drinking water, fourth stage. And finally, he quenches his thirst by drinking water, that is, reaching the goal, fifth stage. This sequential behavior is repeated again and again by human beings. We have come to the end of study session 2. Thank you.